Hello, it's me, Sir Screamalot, and welcome. I have compiled one of the scariest videos I could find on the internet. Subscribe.
A Christmas Eve horror story.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23, I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train. Since I'm one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts, so I wasn't able to get home until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all of my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed until around 11 o'clock. The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated.
Yeah, why didn't you stay
Eventually,
over?
I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from a store. It was a ghost town. But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road, and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint. As I got closer, I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help, so me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out.
Alright.
He was an average-sized man, probably 5'10", 180 pounds. He spoke in a very demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine. I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out, and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second.
Alright. The second they start, like, answering everything immediately, that means first of all, they're under pressure or stress. Probably has already been planned.
I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused.
Pull out your gun.
He walked over to the front of his car, and I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hand on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up. I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my keys. He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house key right into his neck. He fell to his knees and his scream echoed down the deserted street. I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees. A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy.
Oh, bruh.
I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Basically, you escaped the kidnap / could have been murdered situation. And on Christmas Eve, too. I don't know what else you could do in a situation like that. So anyway, that was the first video that, from the list. The true Chuck E. Cheese horror story.
I've been holding on to this for a couple of years now, and feel like I need to get it off my chest. I had a few years to digest this, and now I'm ready to share my story with the world. I wish to remain anonymous, so for the sake of this story, my name will be Danny.
Hello, Danny.
The details of this story remain vivid, but somewhat foggy, as I try to reminisce on the distant memories that occurred a couple of years ago. It all started when me and my parents resided together in an old townhouse, which was located in a neighborhood notorious for having a high crime rate. I never liked living there, and neither did my parents, but it was the only thing that we could afford at the time. My parents were a little rough around the edges, considering they had both been through a lot in their younger years. My dad has had a few run-ins with the law, while my mom lost both her parents at a very young age, so seeing them edgy at times didn't faze me at all. Well, I'm doing my best, alright?
Can you do something else? What you're doing isn't working.
I'd like to see you do better.
Well, do better, damn it!
Shut the hell up already. I'm tired of hearing you nag all day.
You shut up, you bum!
Almost every night, I could hear the constant back and forth bickering that occurred for hours on end between my parents. They would always fight over what I assumed to be financial-related issues, which had only gotten worse over the years. My parents both didn't really make much money on their respective jobs, so hearing them argue was almost a daily occurrence. I was always scared that things would turn violent, especially with the way these two went at it. I remember one night, I was in my bed trying to induce myself to sleep by watching a couple of YouTube videos on my cell phone. I could hear the usual shouting match coming from the kitchen downstairs. It honestly sounded like they were at the point where they were going to be in a physical altercation. I pressed my ear against my bedroom door and could hear the distant bickering become more hostile between my parents. I could make out my mom saying,
If you don't get a real job, I'm taking Danny and we're moving out!
"What in the hell are you talking about? He doesn't even like you."
Shut up! Shut up! Shut the hell up!
I remember hearing sounds of my mom opening up the kitchen drawers, which led me to assume she was searching for something sharp and potentially do the unthinkable.
The spoon killer.
That's when I decided to head downstairs and mediate the feud to hopefully put it to rest. As I approached the kitchen, I could see my mom holding a huge knife in an overhand grip, the kind of grip that someone uses in preparation of stabbing someone. I could also see my dad holding one of the dining room chairs, in which I assumed was his defense mechanism.
Yeah, Jesus.
What are you doing here, Danny? Didn't I tell you never to leave your room unless you have to use the washroom?
I'm sorry, Mom, but I heard you and
Go to your room, you little turd!
Don't call him that!
Don't tell me what to do, you mother.
Mom, please don't kill Dad!
I said go to your room, Danny!
Leave Danny alone and put the knife away, Helen! That's when my mom began piercing a family portrait of us, except she was only piercing the portion with my dad's face. Mom, stop! Please stop it! It's been a couple weeks after the whole saga had occurred. My parents ended up getting a divorce, which unfortunately left me to reside with my mother.
Ah, Jesus.
The court unfortunately ruled that my mom would be in favor of getting custody of me due to my dad's criminal history with the law.
Ugh.
I honestly contemplated on running away due to how much I dreaded living with her, especially with how toxic and controlling her behavior was.
Run away to your dad.
I would spend most of my time locked in my bedroom, sulking on why I couldn't live a normal life like the rest of the younger individuals in my neighborhood. Why in the hell do I have to live with her? Why couldn't I just live with Dad? He was always the better parent. I can't stand her. I wish she were dead.
Ooh.
What made this even worse was the fact that I had a curfew during my school days. I didn't even have time to join any after-school clubs or sports teams due to the simple fact that I was too worried about not making it home on time. I remember my mom locked me out of the house for several hours due to the fact that I was 5 minutes past my curfew. The one thing I found even more aggravating was how my mom permanently banned me from going to the local Chuck E. Cheese restaurant located down the street from my residence.
What?
For those that aren't familiar with Chuck E. Cheese, it's a restaurant that has arcade games and playrooms for younger crowds such as myself. I enjoyed going there, as it would bring back fond memories of when me and my dad used to go. I usually went to Chuck E. Cheese every time it was my birthday, just as a tradition my dad established when we all used to live together.
So I'm not an American, so I don't really know what Chuck E. Cheese is like. We don't have that here, but it sounds nice. Yeah, this sounds like something that kids would love, arcade games and pizza.
But all of that is gone now. My mom took my entire childhood away from me, which I find equivalent to ripping my heart out of my chest. She selfishly didn't want me going because she didn't want me to be reminded of my dad's existence. The rules and restrictions I had to abide by really made it difficult to make any friends, which put me in a dark state of mind for the latter part of my life. There was one night where I decided to approach my mom and convince her to bring me to Chuck E. Cheese for my upcoming birthday. I honestly cared more about Chuck E. Cheese than my actual birthday itself, which is why I ended up using it as an excuse to go there. Hey, Mom? Can we please go to Chuck E. Cheese for my...
No, Danny, I already told you this.
But it's for my birthday.
No.
I anticipated the rebuttal my mom was going to throw at me, but that didn't stop me from being persistent with my request.
I want Chuck E. Cheese! Also, when she locked you out for a few hours for being 5 minutes late, like, hey, can go in, I'm going out, fuck you.
After a few tears and relentless pleading, my mom eventually caved in and agreed to take me there on my birthday. The exhilaration of going to Chuck E. Cheese after all these months was honestly something I would compare to an inmate getting released from jail.
The sag under your eyes.
I felt so excited, to the point where I didn't even care about anything else. Just me and the place that I once grew to love. My birthday eventually arrived, and it was time for me to finally visit Chuck E. Cheese once again. It was about the evening time, so the venue was usually packed to full capacity. I couldn't help but marvel at what was in front of me, as I genuinely felt I was a kid in a candy shop. Pinch me. I must be dreaming. I immediately started playing the arcade games while my mom wandered off to grab some food. I remember being so hungry, but at the same time so infatuated with every arcade game that was in front of me. I couldn't help but indulge in countless games, as I knew this could be my very last time at Chuck E. Cheese. That's when I felt a strange tap on my shoulder. I turned towards the direction of where I felt the tap, only to see a large Chuck E. Cheese rat mascot hovering over me. I was a little alarmed that the mascot would approach me, considering there were hundreds of guests in attendance. Hey, Chucky?
Is that your dad?
The mascot didn't say anything. He just stood there staring at me with his big elongated eyes. I noticed he had red stains on his costume, which I assumed to be pizza stains. But then I noticed the stains had transferred onto the shoulder area of my shirt from the tap he did earlier. I now knew that these were definitely not pizza stains. They had to be blood stains of some sort. Chucky? Is she gone? Yeah, she is. Here, take my hand, Danny. I missed you, Dad. I missed you too, son.
What? Oh, and then the Freddy laugh. Bruh. Come on. Ah, Jesus. Is she gone? Yeah, she is. Casual as fuck. Let's go. Okay, this next one that I found is called The True Mad Clown Horror Story. And, yeah, I don't really have a fear of clowns. They have a fear of me, I think.
My name is Bree. This happened in 2016. I was 19 years old at the time. I was up late the night before into the early morning studying, and I hadn't had much sleep, so I had just woken up from a nap. I decided to hop in the shower to wake myself. That's when I heard this weird scraping sound coming from somewhere outside. I stopped the shower and peered out from behind the curtain, and then made my way over to the window. I saw nothing, but I could still hear the noise. I thought it may have been my neighbor working in a shed,
Or under the
so
window.
I ignored the disturbance and finished up in the shower. Before I continue, I should inform you that I have severe anxiety problems, and I often get a little paranoid sometimes. It also doesn't help that I have PTSD as well. Anyways, I was now back in my room, and I took a seat on my bed. I texted my then boyfriend and asked him what he wanted for dinner. While I was waiting for him to respond, I just relaxed and scrolled through my Facebook. I was reading an article about the recent clown sightings that were happening at the time, when I was interrupted by the sound of footsteps coming from outside. I stopped and listened carefully. I heard a few more steps, followed by a tapping noise. I was a bit confused by this. It hadn't yet occurred to me that I had an unwelcomed guest outside. I was thinking why my boyfriend hadn't knocked on the door or called before he showed up. We usually had a routine with things like this, especially if I was home alone. He would either text, call, or FaceTime me to let me know when he was on his way home, or if he was at the door, because there had been a lot of shady activity around our neighborhood at the time. I then called out to him, and suddenly, all fell silent. I texted him and asked if he was at the door. There was no reply, so I decided to peek through the bedroom window. While I was making my way to the other side of the room, my phone started ringing. It was my boyfriend wanting to FaceTime. When I answered, he said he was about 15 minutes away. As I was talking to him, I pulled back the curtains of my bedroom window, and that's when all the blood in my veins turned to ice as I came face to face with a fucking clown.
Jesus.
I know I wasn't hallucinating.
Flip him the
An
bird.
actual clown was looking at me through the window, smiling. After my initial shock, I actually started to laugh, thinking that this had to be some kind of prank my boyfriend was pulling on me. So I played along, pretending to be terrified, and whispered into the phone, "Very funny, asshole. Love the whole scary clown thing." I chuckled and rolled my eyes. My boyfriend was confused, and I explained to him about the clown at the window, and said that he and his friend did a good job scaring the piss out of me. He seemed confused, saying that all of his friends were hanging out at the pub, and that he was not a part of any plan to prank me. Upon hearing this, I felt my stomach in my throat, as I looked back at the clown, who was still just outside my window.
Have a gun.
He reached into his costume and pulled out a very real-looking butcher's knife. By this point, I wasn't sure what was going on, so I grabbed my baseball bat. My boyfriend told me that he was now only a few minutes away. He shouted at me to stay inside and to lock all the doors and windows. I quickly closed the curtains and went into the lounge. It wasn't long before I heard a loud pounding on the front door. Suddenly, I heard a creepy voice coming from the other side.
"Let me in, child."
I'll let my bat in your ass.
I didn't respond to the voice. I just stood perfectly still, waiting for the next move.
I'm ready to bat your face.
Loud pounding rang out again, causing the door to rattle on its hinges, but I kept quiet, even when I heard the doorknob rattling. Although I was pretty scared at this point, I was also getting a tad irritated, and yelled out to the clown, "Fuck off! Go annoy someone else!" I then heard muffled laughter, followed by the creepy voice.
"Please let me in, doll. I just want to play. I want to play with your insides."
I had enough of this. I was about to go out and confront this creepy asshole myself when I heard my boyfriend's voice, who was still on the phone, say, "Hang up and call the cops." After some consideration, I thought that maybe confronting the creepy clown outside with a butcher's knife was not the correct course of action. So I did as my boyfriend said. I left the lounge and was soon explaining to the police dispatcher the situation. I was on my way back to my room when I heard the sound of glass breaking. I stopped in my tracks and told him that I think the clown just broke into the house. They immediately told me to get somewhere safe, and that's when I heard my ex yelling out, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Get the hell out of here. The police are on the way." The clown just bellowed out a psychotic laugh and took off. As I made my way back into the bedroom, something caught my eye. I peered out the window. Through a gap in the curtains, I saw another clown. He appeared to be holding some kind of saw blade in his hand. I went to move, but I was like a deer caught in the headlights. I couldn't move or scream. Fear then overcame me, as I realized my boyfriend was now out there with 2 creepy clowns. I screamed into the phone, "There's another clown outside my bedroom. Please hurry." After a few moments, I was relieved when I heard my boyfriend at the back door. I quickly let him inside. We then held each other tightly until the police arrived. After taking our statements, the police discovered a rusted hacksaw and an axe lying on the ground outside of my bedroom window. There were red marks all over them. Of course, the creepy clowns that had turned my night into a freak show were nowhere to be found. After that night, I struggled to fall asleep. I often think to myself, what would have happened to me if I had been stupid enough to open that door? Were they just a couple of thrill seekers looking to frighten a girl who was all alone? Or were they, in fact, out for blood?
The first rule of moving in a house for me would be armored windows with laser beams and rocket launchers all over the house. So anyway, this was a compilation. Really hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Do you want to see more videos like this? Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'll see you guys. Bye.